Bom dia to those of you in these Estados Unidos, and boa tarde if you're joining us here in Portugal. But that's all the Portuguese you're going to get from me today. Today, we are going to be talking about, one of our favorite topics here. Okay, I'm going to stop the share just for a second so I can say hello properly. Hello. I am John McNertney, and we are coming live to you from Lisbon, Portugal tonight, as well as the lovely Puget Sound area with Ryan. And we have Mark Moberg joining us today, too. So we'll get kicked off here. So the agenda today is a different agenda. As I've said, I'm not going to be doing anything that's related to cross-border, at least not directly. And in point of fact, today we are going to be hearing from our resident guru, Mark Moberg. Hopefully you have met him, but there's a chance that you haven't. So this is going to be fun, I hope, for you. Before we get started, the usual disclosure as financial advisors, we must share that all of the preceding information that we are about to share with you is not factual in the sense that you are our client. If you are, then God bless. But it's intended to be shared with a broader audience. And so we must point out that it is educational in nature. There could be elements that are entertaining, at least I hope that there are, and that they are not binding in the legal sense unless you have a formal contract with us. This is what the kids tell me I'm supposed to say these days. Like and subscribe. I think that's what they say, right, guys? Like and subscribe to what we're doing on YouTube. Yes, it's YouTube. And if you want to talk to us in person, then by all means, click on the little Ready to Unleash Your Financial Potential button on our welcome screen. So who are you talking to today? You're talking to me, not to brag, but okay, I'll brag. My wife invited me to come with her to Rome last week. And as one does, they say, yes. They say, yes, of course I'll take a work holiday, actually work from the hotel room and then go visit the Coliseum. But yeah, I'm John McNertney. I started my work in the industry about 18 years ago, but more recently, I have been here at Green Ocean Global Advisors, and these guys somehow put up with me and keep me around. If you haven't met me before, I welcome you to hit me up online. But today, it's more about my partners here. My de facto partner, Ryan Aarons, will be joining us. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us this evening to talk a little bit about the markets at the end of our presentation. But we are going to start with Mark Moberg, a gentleman who joined us a couple of years ago. I guess it says 2024. It feels like we've known each other for longer. And Mark's specialty is different than mine and different than Ryan's. We have a team, just like any good team. You have shortstops, you have pitchers, you have all kinds of folks. And Ryan loves trading. I do too, and I love financial planning. But Mark Moberg, when we met, was in the midst of one of his research projects where he wanted to talk about behavioral finance, which, as it turns out, is actually one of the most important things to what we do, talking about how do you get through retirement with your sanity intact. At least that's how it always feels with me and the clients that we're working with. And so he started with us with the love for that. He's been an advisor for a couple of decades. Heyo, and he still likes what he's doing enough to hang out with us poor schlubs. He's a passionate photographer, and he does have quite a lot of expertise, as you might imagine, in all things investments related. And so I think that's really all that we need. My outline has been deleted because Mark's going to be presenting his own materials tonight. I'm super excited because this we do know. Not enough people know what they need to know from a technical and behavioral standpoint to do this thing we call retirement. So that is going to be, I think, what we're going to focus on today. Are you ready to go there, Mark?
I'm ready to go.
All right, thanks. Did I forget anything?
No, but hey, John.
Yeah, I'm going to make.
Speaking of, that'd be you.
I'm going to make you the boss.
Yeah, I am the boss now. But I got a question for you. You have two teenagers, right?
Yes, I should sound excited when I say yes. I have teenagers.
Yeah, I have one too. And guess what? In this meme society right now, do you know what their favorite number is?
He told me last night, Dad. It's what time it is. It's 67 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the number.
67. Yeah, I know.
Why did Kaz tell you that?
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, we're talking about know your number, so I guess we'll start from there. So, but I think they got a little bit before they have to worry about retirement.
I hope so too. All right, man. I'm gonna let you let her rip, and Godspeed. I will chime in from time to time. Ryan, you can chime in too if you see anything Mark really needs to be heckled over.
Okay, well, I hope I get through this in one piece. But it's great to be here, and we're just going to start out with this knowing your number. First off, I bet you didn't know, but this is not really a math problem. I'm going to be sneaking into this in a different way. Really, the math problem here is at the end. The big question is knowing what the question is you need to ask. And so my argument is, and I know that Ryan is going to have a heated discussion with me later after we get done, but excuse me, my argument is that stocks, bonds, and ETFs, all these other investments, are the last thing we talk about. First off, we want to know where it is we're trying to go. And on that, knowing where we're going to go, I'm going to just give you a big picture here of kind of the things we're going to talk about. First off, I would like to point down here on the lifestyle vision. And what I want to discuss there is more about what it is you want to do at retirement. Do you want to have well, as a lot of us here, I would imagine, are thinking about moving to Portugal. That would certainly be a lifestyle vision, something you might want. Also, on that idea of living in Portugal here would be to live on the beach. So there's a number of options there that we can look at. Probably the deeper values would be your emotional purpose. Now, if we get this emotional purpose right, everything else kind of follows through in a much more deeper sense of really having your retirement to be something that's really at a meaningful point of your second part of your life. And then finally, this is where we're going to wrap it up with looking at your financial side of things. Now, there is a very good author who writes about financial planning, and his name's Carl Richards. And by the way, the show notes at the end will have all this. And if you want to get them, you can just email and I'll send them to you. But Carl Richards says financial decisions are almost always life decisions. And before you decide your financial goals, you need to decide your life goals. And I, for one, am fully in favor of this. Now, also, when we're looking at retirement, one of the big things is that we always say, you know, we can do anything we want in retirement, but just know that we can't do everything. So now, with all the choices you might have, how do we narrow down what it is that's most important to us in our retirement? This is where, frankly, we can help you out and try to narrow those ideas down to help you so that you get more of a focus on where you want to go. And if we can't help you out, I have my friends, and I bet John never thought I'd put this on, but the Rolling Stones has something to say.
I didn't turn the sound on for you. Did you want us to hear Mick Jagger?
Yeah, why not?
I always wanted to hear Mick Jagger. I don't know how to do it though. That's beyond my.
Oh, okay. Shame.
Sorry, you
Oh,
can't
shame, shame,
always
shame.
get what you want,
Oh, bring it home,
but you can
baby.
try sometimes to get what you
What you
need.
need. All right. Well, you're doing good. I think you might have done Mick Jagger well on that one. But let's go on. So retirement planning isn't just a destination, it's actually a lifestyle. And that's what we're really talking about here is what's your lifestyle going to look like? Here's some questions that you might want to think of. What does a fulfilling day look like for you? And honestly, I don't mean you just to think this question through and give it 10 seconds thought. I really would suggest that you take a pen to paper and spend some time thinking about what this is. What does this look like to you? Where will you live and how does it affect your costs? Even here in Portugal, depending on where you live, it could have a big difference on on your costs, where you're going to for housing and actually just your lifestyle. And finally, is if there's something you want to leave behind. If you want to leave something behind to your family, do you want to leave something behind to your school or your church? Any of those decisions, those are up to you for sure. But think about them. Don't just give these just a few moments thought. I would really suggest you take a little bit of time to think about these ideas and come up with some good answers. I also think that you should dream big and then work backwards. So I'm giving you permission right now to take that magic wand, steal it out of your kid's toy chest if you have it still, and wave it and think about what it is that you would like for your retirement. Think about all the ideas you might have. And then from there, I would suggest you might want to look at this guy. And this guy, I love his job title. He is known as the happiness researcher at Harvard. Now, this gentleman, Arthur Brooks, I believe his name is, he's got some really interesting YouTube videos. And if you get a chance, you might like to watch him because he does talk about happiness and how you can have a fulfilling life. But one of his suggestions is the reverse bucket list. And it's to basically take that magic wand of all those things you thought you might want in life, and then start drawing a line through things that might be fun, but they're temporary fun and they're not long lasting. Look for the things in your life that have permanence, things that you really feel like this is really speaking to me. That way you can narrow it down to your strengths and things you really like to do. Also, there's another book here, and it's written by Susie Welch. And yes, if that name sounds familiar, that is Jack Welch, who was a CEO of GE. That's his wife. But she writes something quite fascinating in her book. And it says, happiness is not a goal, but it's a byproduct of living with purpose. Almost everybody who is living in their purpose has a kind of exquisite aliveness, which is pretty much joy. And I can't really think of anything more we'd want to have in our vacation, as I say, as our retirement, as to have joy. And she gives us 3 components to that. Understanding our values, our aptitudes, so not only something that we really believe in, but actually something we're actually good at. And then finally, can we afford to do something that matches our values and aptitudes? It's actually a pretty good methodology to put together for what you might want to do in life.
Mark, can I put in one thing really quick? Really quick.
Sure.
I just want to point out, guys, if anybody has something they want to mention in the chat, this is the perfect topic. No holds barred, because we're really talking about, again, the stuff that makes me uncomfortable, the squishy stuff. That matters a lot, right? So controversial comments, hopefully down in the Q&A.
All right. So now, if I haven't sold you yet on trying to have a purpose and goal in your life, how about this? There's research out from UC Davis that says that if you have a purpose in your life, you're 28% less likely to have dementia. So I think we'd all like to say that we'd try to fight off dementia as long as we can in a retirement. So I'm just giving you an extra kick to try to do this. And finally, there's always going to be times when we might get some blockage on just thinking about what my values are. Well, I have a website that you might want to look at. It's free. Obviously, there's a paid version like most of these things have, but really the free version can get you pretty far. And it's take you about 15 to 20 minutes, and it has a number of questions, and it'll help you just kind of understand about your life and what's important to you. This is what mine was. And the authenticity gap here, if you're 10 and below, it means you're really living your authentic life. And I think that's what we all would strive for. I'm 12, so I'm getting there. I'm a work in progress, I guess you'd say. No comment from John on that one. So let's look at looking about your vision. Again, asking some basic questions for yourself. What would be a fulfilling day for you? Do you have any ideas about what you'd like to do waking up in the morning as you're retired? Think about that. Where would you want to live? Now, I know many of us here were thinking about living in Portugal, but I'd even want you to drill down even farther. Where in Portugal? The Algarve is very different from up in Porto, which is very different from the Silver Coast or even Lisbon. So think about this. There's a lot of places that you might want to be, and drill down, spend some time thinking about this. The next part would be is you're carrying your identity. And what I mean by this is you had an identity while you were working. What was that? Was there something in there that you said that was the real me? Make sure you bring that along at retirement. Don't just leave everything all packed up in your box when you leave the door from work. And then also don't forget your hobbies and passions. Certainly that's going to be important at this time. And I would highly suggest you keep on working there. Then again, we need to think about if, and this does happen for a lot of us that move over to Portugal, is that what are the relationships going to be like here? We could certainly, I've been here about 4 years now. We could spend most of our time if we wanted just working within the expats here and be perfectly fine, especially here in Lisbon and Cascais. But if you really want to integrate yourself into the Portuguese society, that's probably a very good thing to do as well. But think about how you'd like to do that. And then also too, what kind of purpose-driven engagement might you want to see in yourself? Do you want to be teaching at the school? Do you want to volunteer somewhere? There are so many opportunities you can be integrated into the society, wherever you're at. But this is the big one now, health and longevity. There's one thing about living a long life, but there's another point of saying you want to have a long, healthy life. And I think that's what we all would strive to do. But in the case of this, we also need to think of locations. If we live in a town, a very pretty little town, but it doesn't have proper health care, that could present a problem for us. So we need to think about where that might be. Again, the other part of this is that we need to think about, do we want to be near our family or our friends? They can be a help, especially family, if there's some needs for medical needs and such. And again, repeating back to legacy, that would be everything again. What would you, if you wanted to leave money for somebody, where would that be? How would that look? And then finally, I always like to talk about the idea of enough. What is enough for you? And one of the big things that we have as biases we think about time and time again is moving the goalposts. Now we think we have enough, and then something happens and we go, oh, I think I need to get more money because now I want to do this instead. There's nothing wrong with that, but it does change the numbers completely. And so we need to make sure that we're understanding where we're at. So here we're going to go and basically talk about John, Ryan, and myself a little bit. Everybody needs a coach. There's a really famous Nobel laureate named Daniel Kahneman, and he said, when you're making important decisions, you want to get it right. You should get the help of your friends. That would be us right here, what I'm talking about. But if you have friends like this, certainly you can use them as well. But as you get the help of friends who don't take you too seriously, since they're not too impressed with your biases. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is that we all have friends who, through thick and thin, they'll stand up for us and they will help us with anything we want and be our support group. The problem is they're not really helping us when we have problems. They're just really more of a support group. This is where I think that we as planners can really help you out, is give you an extra pair of eyes and a serious help on making hard decisions on where you want to go with your retirement. I think that this bottom quote down here is pretty important. People who are aware of their own biases were no better able to overcome them. And that's honestly true, is that where we look at everything through our own lens, our own filter, we really have a hard time understanding some of the biases that we might have. And that's where somebody helping you out can help you understand some of the things you might have actually got to say, like I would say, wearing rose-colored glasses. One last point here is I would like to point out that generally there's two people making these decisions. It's not one individual. And we all have to understand that we're making decisions as a couple, a lot of times in retirement. And the challenge there is trying to navigate two different people's opinion on what retirement looks like. I do have a worksheet that I've included that is called a core flex plan. And basically you look through some of your core beliefs, your core visions of who you are. Those are the things that you really don't want to give up or don't want them to be something that's not part of your retirement plan. The flex things are things that are nice to have, but they're not something you definitely want to have. Hopefully between the two and your partner, you can mix these plans together so that you have both of your needs are addressed. And we don't have this video either, but I thought, and this shows my age, but Green Acres I thought of when I was thinking about this, because if you remember this TV show, Green Acres was about the lady who wanted to stay in New York at her penthouse suite, and her husband wanted to be on the farm. And I think if there's ever a financial plan that needs a core flex, that would probably be it.
Did you want me to sing this one too? Because
How
about the last line? Zsa Gabor said, "Honey, I love you, but give me Park Avenue." I just wanted you to feel like you weren't too old. I was right
just
there.
From the Q&A, from the Q&A, Jackie Phillips, no, John. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Good point.
So one other part of this is the unseen divide in retirement. Now, as like everything, when you have a spouse, generally one of us is trying to take care of one thing and the other spouse takes care of another. Example being, one might do the cooking, the other one might be the cleaning up the dishes, another one might do actually the clothes, washing the clothes. Another one might actually be the one doing the organization, or frankly, in this point, one might be doing the budgeting and the investing, and the other one is not. Now, what's happened a lot, and I totally understand that I'm using a very broad brush when I say this, but a lot of times what I see is that we have the husband who has been traditionally the one who's been dealing with the financial matters, and the wife is the one who has not been involved as much. Now, that works great up to the point where, unfortunately for us guys, we pass away earlier than the women statistically. So what we end up doing is we end up then dropping all of this onto the spouse who has the least training because they're the ones still living through retirement. And then they're expected to just all of a sudden pick things up in a moment's notice and say, well, here I go, I'm going to manage the money. And I haven't been doing this since we've been married. So this is something that I really tried to hone in on. And I do have some suggestions from some of the sheets that you can get at the end of this to kind of work through with your spouse. I would also highly suggest, and most times when we're doing our quarterly meetings or we're doing the financial plans, that we have both of you together, because it really does help solidify the two of you understanding where we're going with your investments when we're working with you. And that way, if anything did happen, the understanding is there way beforehand. And believe it or not, just this morning, I happened to see there's a book coming out next week called Money Together. And it's actually a book that addresses this exact question. So which is good timing this morning of seeing this. And yes, in the end, John, you'll be happy, or Ryan actually, be really happy to know that yes, we will be doing with the financial plan, and we'll do the asset allocations and the investments. But as I was saying from this whole presentation, my opinion is that that's after we understand where it is you want to go, not just in a broad brushed area, but actually very specifically, what is the things you want out of your retirement? And then we'll back into the numbers to make sure that works. So in conclusion here, as I always say, is that if you don't have your numbers, it's purely hope-based. And if you do have your numbers, it's goal-based. And I hope that that's where we're going to go with you. And just repeat back to the original slide on kind of the overall planning structure. And you know, we're always here to help and help you put together your plan or support the plan that you already have. And I just want to leave you with this. This is a quote. We moved over here to Portugal 4 years ago, and I found this quote, and I've had it just sitting in my computer. I look at it every once in a while just to remind me of where we've been. It's and this quote is, 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, and discover. But there's one but here. If you do come to Portugal by sailboat, please watch out for the orcas. They have sunk a few boats around here. So thank you so much. I hope you found this informative. And like I said, we will be happy to send the information. I have a number, all the books and some of the websites and downloaded the worksheets I have included in this slide deck. That's it for me. Thank you much.
All right. Thanks, Mark. I want every one of you to give Mark a big hand. Thank you, because I don't talk enough about this. It's exciting. And it's relevant because it's you when we're working with you. I talk about stuff I think is going to be more exciting, but it's actually the stuff we're doing with clients all the time, right, Mark? So, and so we'll go to Q&A after we hear from our resident numbers guru. The funny thing that Ryan said to Mark as soon as Mark showed us the presentation is he said, you know, for a seminar that's supposed to be about like the number, there's not enough numbers in here. So
I will own that quote. I will own that quote. That is exactly what I said. I also think that was exactly the goal.
Mark, right click on Ryan and make him the host so he can share his slide. Or I think I have the slides. So.
I can do it. Yeah.
All right, throw the ball to Ryan, please.
Oh, actually, let's see here. I can share, so no worries. All right, guys. Well, on today's topic, given the nature and the content that we've had, I actually did not do a whole lot of market slides like I normally do. I have maybe one or two we could look at, but what I wanted to do was touch on perhaps the conversation we'll have after. So a lot of the time here at Green Ocean, I am jumping into meetings with John, Mark, Jake, our other advisor, after you guys have gone through the planning process, gotten to know each other, and then I come in, push my glasses up, and talk about the great portfolio we're going to build out on a custom basis. So with that, I will go into a little bit about the concepts behind that, because we don't want to have a super jarring experience to go from talking about the great things we can accomplish in retirement. Really, what's the money going to be used for is more important than necessarily the number in your account. Here's how we apply what matters to you and what moves the needle for you. I like to highlight first and foremost that if this doesn't happen for you, don't get me wrong, I've got a few retired techies in my book from here on the West Coast who invest like there is no tomorrow sometimes, right? And as we've just been talking about, there's a tomorrow. There could be a tomorrow in 30 years. And when it comes to how we want to invest as we age, we do want to get more conservative over time. So this is actually, they call this a glide path. These are things that inform our strategy behind the scenes. And as you age, this is just a suggestion. Each person's going to be different. Your resources and how you spend your money really affects how we apply this kind of a concept. But I did want to include this. Basically, there's three core principles: grow assets, protect assets, and distribute so that you can use it, right? Passive investments that have interest and dividends might become more of a priority, and rather than reinvesting them, which is the advice I'm going to give you up until you retire, we're going to start kicking it out to the checking account. And just how much can we produce from that leads us into safe withdrawal rates and other numbers like that. The asset allocation pyramid is something that I have my own version of as well, but this one comes from JP Morgan, and this also suggests that, hey, even if you're 75 years old, you're taking RMDs, there's still some funds that should probably be pretty aggressively invested. You can look at those as legacy funds, but as Mark actually mentioned with the core and the flex plan, I kind of look at the assets we have at the tippy top of the pyramid, taking part in the AI trend and everything, as part of your flex plan. Hey, if this works out, a little extra money for some travel or upgrade the bathroom, whatever makes you happiest. But we are always paying the mortgage and the water bill and the power bill, right? And that should be a larger foundational piece to how we approach your healthy investment diet, as I like to think of this. This is just another way to look at that. Finally, FOMO is not just for kids. There is something to missing out on the best days of the market. I do find this interesting. I'll walk you through this really quickly. This is a hypothetical of if you invested in July 1st, 2005 through June 30th, 2025, today, 20 years later, and you were just in the market the whole time, you got, it's S&P 500 in this case, you got about a 10% rate of return. If you missed the 10 best days, 10 days out of over 2,000 days, that drops almost by half. And then the kicker, the one that can be very frustrating, some of the best days have come after some of the worst days. High volatility. We'll see markets drop 7% in a day, the next day they're up 8%. So it's actually at some of those higher volatility times we have to hold the line. Thus, having a comprehensive conversation with a guy like Mark before you talk to a guy like me is usually going to be really the best way so that we can guide ourselves into a place of comfort. I would say the way I look at it as an advisor, because I still do have my own book of clients here at Green Ocean, if I can talk you out of selling into a down market once, that's got a lot of value, right? But really the work we want to do up front there is to ensure that we're not in a position where you're so uncomfortable in April 2025 when markets are down 15%. We don't want you to be down that much. And that's where we go back to how we construct our portfolios. So that's what I had for you guys today.
Well, there she wrote, gentlemen. That was actually super comprehensive. That's exactly what we wanted and what we do every day. See, like I said, there are people that are good at different things. The thing that Mark is the best at, and I want to highlight, is he collects material. And so somebody asked in the chat, and I want to reemphasize, I invite you to reach out to Mark and ask him for his content lists, because the guy's not only incredibly handsome, but he is well read, as you are probably hearing. He's referencing all these great materials. So please give him a nudge. Otherwise, we will turn to the Q&A, which is very inactive today, but it's not as easy to talk about. These are big ideas.
Here we go.
I was so thorough.
Here we go. All right, starting to click in. John, you want to take, or should I queue them up for you?
Well, we have one anonymous attendee that has written us an email in the Q&A. Naughty, naughty. Okay, so the person here asks us whether they should take their money to Europe, basically. You see, that actually was a nice abridged version. Should you take your money to Europe if you're going to live in Europe? Okay, so this is actually a vibe that is definitely alive in 2025. The debasement question of whether the U.S. is profligacy. I'm just going to call it that. Come on, guys. The U.S. has been really kind of getting away with a lot, and it's got to come to an end. So will the U.S. dollar lose value? We don't really know, is the answer. You know, yeah. I mean, I just to finish off that thought, though, really quick. We always think that we know because we have feelings that tell us one thing, but the market, remember, it moves off of its own momentum. It really is a sort of perpetual motion machine. Doesn't always take as many inputs from the outside world as we want. So as we want to think. So yes, you can take your money here to Europe, but Europe has underperformed the US for the last few decades.
I wanted to just add, because some of the theme behind that question is referring to some of the political situation, panic, and asset grabs of accounts. So, just for what it's worth, a book that I would recommend to people interested in economic history is Nixon in China, The Week That Changed the World. That, I think, can really set the stage for a situation we find ourselves in now, post Cold War. We have a bit of mutually assured destruction with with the rest of the world. The world depends on the dollar still. We are not at the point in this political climate where I would be concerned about aggressive asset grabs. There's some exceptions to that. Undocumented immigrants in America should take heed, but those of us with Social Security numbers, that's not really a concern, right? I think that there are some other more prescient concerns that we could probably focus on in the planning process.
Mark, from a behavioral standpoint, any thoughts on that? The question actually was directed at you. Sorry for being a yeah.
It's okay, boss. Um, uh, no, I just think one of the best things I think Kahneman said about any kind of decisions is sleep on it. Give yourself at least 24 hours to make a decision, because most quick decisions are rash decisions and you'll live to regret it.
That's a good one. This is a pretty basic but super important question from Robert. And Mark, tell us, you mentioned Kaz briefly, and Robert asks, how did they handle the move? How do they feel about it? How have you guys all done as a family?
Oh boy, we have, how much time do we have?
Yeah.
Um, well, I tell you, we came here actually for my wife's work, and we told Kaz that we were going to move, and we got this deadpan look like this is a joke, right? And said, no, no, we're going to move. And then we went, we came over in September, and the height of the whole COVID pandemic, and went around and looked at schools, looked at places to live, and they were a little better interested in things, but still, it was tough. We didn't actually move here. We were really good at planning things. We flew from the United States on Christmas Day to come over here. So that was our Christmas present. And we moved in it, and it was honestly, in the middle of COVID, it was tough. We had our first couple of months was very tough, but we've been here now 4 years. And if you asked Kaz if they going to go back to the United States, they would emphatically say no, probably never. So it's I never would have believed that. They are looking for, they're in 11th grade now, looking at colleges, and they're only looking at schools in the UK or in the EU. They're not even giving it a moment's notice to, or a moment's thought to look at something back in the States.
Another question from Jackie. How often should you reassess your goals? Every week?
Well, yeah. Well, I would say this: whenever you have a change, for sure, you should look at your goals. And quite honestly, whenever you feel like it's almost like, I'd say, if it's a scratch, something that needs to be scratched, look at it. There might be something deep down that's bothering you, and you would be surprised how many times people just talk to us just for reassurance. They just want to make sure that everything's okay. They feel good about things. And also too, from, if you're the spouse that's actually the decision maker in the finances, you got to remember, you're holding a heavy load, making all these financial responsibilities for both of you. And sometimes just having some reassurance from us to say, yes, things are going okay, or maybe we should look at this deeper. That's going to make you feel better, make you feel that you, as the decision maker on finances, are doing your job.
And they're doing a great job, probably. Remember, you said the coaching one? Michael Jordan had a coach, right?
Yeah,
He probably fired
yeah.
his coach too often though. So that might not be the best one.
I wanted to add just from news from the front lines. Sometimes in our relationships, I am the one that gives permission, or I can say, "Oh, blame it on me." I said, "No, we can't do that. Sorry." There's a lot of ways that we offer that side of the coaching and support side of things. What I loved about Mark's slide was talking about how our friends can have biases. That's so true, and within the bounds of our operating table, which is a financial planning meeting, we see everything and we don't judge. We are here to support people making it to and through retirement, generally, in your best interest. So I just wanted to add that note.
Oh, shucks, we're nice guys. But technical question on the way. This question is, why does when we do financial plans, why do they focus on this like percent of success at the end of the plan? And what is the expectation there? If you're being successful, does that mean that you're going to run out of money at the end of the plan? Have money, or do you have a lot of money at the end of the plan? What should one take from that?
Ryan, it's you.
Yeah, I mean,
Something you've
so
written
the
all
extra
around.
funds at the end of a plan. There's the bounce the last check strategy. So as a man with no kids, that's kind of my de facto expectation. Leave some money behind to make sure my cats are well taken care of and spend the rest, right? With that said, we need to have flexibility. When you're 85 years old and there's not a whole lot of earning potential and you have a large financial event that happens, it could be a roof on the house. It could be a medical issue that's not entirely covered. If my father passed away in a foreign country and Medicare did not kick in, had to go out of pocket. So there's all kinds of things that we might need extra money for that's unexpected. We want to have additional funds in the plan to deal with the variability and the chaos that is life. Ultimately, these things are run on projections to give us confidence, and that percentage that we use is our confidence level in the prescribed process. Sometimes when we go through a financial plan, I have to say, you want to spend $3,000 a month, you got to spend $5,000. Come on, right? I mean, we're not burning enough of it. So there's a lot of different ways that we can utilize the tools. What we're talking about today is basically we want to use the tools until we come to a place of I think comfort and peace and contentment. Great question before about how often should we talk about this? We're reviewing things quarterly with you. Hey, are we on track? Is this working as expected? Do you have enough? Do you want to do more? This should be an ongoing process.
So, good
I want
answers all. I will give you another question really fast here, Mark. We don't have all night, but I
okay,
want to get through some
okay,
questions
yeah,
because
yeah.
there's a lot on people's minds. So Gretchen asks this. This is a behavioral question. There is a definite mindset shift that needs to happen when you transition to spending your money. Like a lot of our clients are coming from very successful careers. They're used to garnering income and balancing their checkbook with that. So how do you get people right with then spending out of their money? I'll leave it at that.
Slowly. Yeah, slowly. But I will tell you this though, there is the most crucial points in retirement planning are the 5 years before you retire and the 5 years immediately after you retire. Because at that point, if there is a bad turn in the markets, it could really change how much money you have down the road when you get into your 80s and hopefully 90s. So that's a really crucial time. So I would say this, if let's say you retired in 2022 and the last 3 years were fantastic times in the market, I would then say there's probably a good chance you can spend more money because basically you have hit the lottery the last couple of years of getting returns. But if we had something where we were going to have like the 2000s, where basically the stock market was flat for a whole decade, that's a whole nother argument to say that's going to be a little more cautious about how much money we spend.
So the impact of the first 5 years is called the sequence of risk. If you guys haven't
Correct.
really looked up the sequence of risk paradigm, Google that one. It is true. If things get messed up right after you retire, that has the largest, of course, impact. That's not to say you go, full conservative, but we do want to be at least, sort of responsible about things and not heading straight into Bitcoin with all our money. Um, Technical question. The US dollar to euro exchange rate right now, it's lower than it's been for many years. I tend to transfer large amounts of quarterly money rather than smaller amounts. Is there an ideal strategy? I think there's not. I don't see any one of us jumping in. So it's a tough one, actually. Doing this is essentially akin to dollar cost averaging. And so I would just posit that when you're buying a stock, it's just like buying a currency. Okay. So if you're going to try and time it right, you're looking back the last few years, for example, here. There's a recency bias effect that happens when you look at the last 2 years. We think, oh my God, things are going dot, dot, dot. And we fill in the blanks with our fears oftentimes when we're heading into retirement. Truth is, although I think the US has been profligate, as I said, I do think that there is a potential that things stabilize. Yeah, raise your hand if you think things okay. Maybe things will get a little crazier before they get better. But the fact is you can't really know. So number one, get as much currency as you need in your home country where you live now for a year, and then adopt the dollar cost mentality. So monthly is fine, quarterly is fine. But the most important thing with the strategy is that you stick with it and don't change it because you've had a revelation in the middle of the night.
Objectively speaking, the current exchange rate is on the low end for the last decade. Doesn't mean that that's not going to be the new normal. We don't know that answer yet. There's still a lot of things in flux. We've got aspects of the big beautiful bill that will come live after midterms 2026. I mean, this is a moving situation. What John just said is perfect. I think convert what you need right now. I wanted to jump on another question, I think from the same anonymous attendee. How do we balance investing in Europe with investing in the US now that we moved to Portugal? I posit that those of us on this call are in a position that is enviable. You get to invest like an American and live like a European with European healthcare. That's a pretty good deal. I am over here in Seattle, not living like a European, but investing like an American, and I'm at least happy with my money situation. Next.
But there's also the idea that your portfolio could be designed in a way that has more of a European exposure, so that you're actually your the earnings from the companies are coming back in euros as opposed to dollars. There was a recent report that was saying that like 16% of the total return of the European market is based so totally on the currency conversion. So that's a way of at least covering some of your risk.
If you must invest in Europe, if it's unconscionable to stay in the US, we got something for you too. So give us a buzz directly because that's a whole separate discussion. But there are ways that you can fully exfiltrate, but it's not as easy as you might think. So just be aware. Oh, Robert asks a good follow-up question. You were talking about Kaz before, Mark, right? Your child. Why and do you know why specifically the kids would say they don't want to go back? Why is that? 10 you got 30 seconds.
Well,
That's a hard one.
I would just say that their political, social leanings put them in a place that they don't want to go back. They feel much more comfortable, especially here in Portugal. Living here, they don't have to worry about a lot of the things happening in the world, especially like what's going on now in the last year or so.
I've met Kaz. Kaz is a sensitive soul. And when you are a sensitive soul and you're watching what's going on back home, it just feels different than when you're there. And we could joke about this, and it is a little funny in a way, but yeah, it's like our children see it too, and they go, that looks hard. Why would I do it again? Is what my daughter's been saying. Last question. Oh boy, we got this one last. The viability of Social Security. In short, is it viable? Should we be calculating the full value of Social Security into our financial plan when we know that it may not eventually be there for us? I always leave it in there, but we know that the OASDI, the Office of Old Age Insurance, they keep telling us it's about what, 10 years, 12 years? And then we'll have to start garnishing Social Security because we're not funded on the pension.
They have been saying that for about 10 or 12 years too. And I think that's the thing that's difficult is the goalpost appears to keep moving. Happy to run a scenario that is Social Security free, or we run one with a 50% payout. I will say for my part, I'm 37 years old. I'm self-employed. I don't currently include Social Security in my own retirement plan at all. So it's found money if it's there. I'd be very surprised though if that's not going to end overnight. I think there'd be riots in the streets. So we're likely to have more as details emerge.
Ryan, your FICO is being paid by Green Ocean, so just for anyone on the call, we're not evading our responsibility. Sorry, IRS. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last question actually snuck in there. How much? Oh wait, no, we did that one. So that's pretty much it. Guys, any other kind of last thoughts as we head into the sunset here?
No, but I just would say that if you're interested in any of the recommended books, website, or some of the worksheets that I made, send us an email and we'll send them on your way.
Awesome. Ryan, anything before we go?
I was going to say, yeah, keep an eye out on your email. Everyone who registered for this will receive a recording of the webinar along with some of the resources. So glad everyone could join us today. Always a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Listen to us. We all want to share the products of our work. Doesn't everybody just want to feel special? But that's what we're here for. Really,
Kumbaya.
not for us. Kumbaya, to hold hands and to sing. All right, guys. Well, it's been real. Have a fantastic night. Muito obrigado por vocês na Portugal. E todos os outros também. Be well. We'll talk to you next time, guys.
Obrigado.